Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the penultimate League 2 review for the 2024-25 campaign. In today's video, we're going to go through all of the League 2 playoff semi-final second leg matches and talk about them in a little bit more detail, and then we'll have a little bit of a preview for the final. If you do want to enjoy today's video, don't forget to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 100 likes on today's video? That'd massively appreciated. And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Who do you think now will be promoted up into League 1? We'll start out firstly then with Walsall FC 2 at Chesterfield 1. I mean, the Saddlers progressed through to Wembley with a 4-1 victory on aggregate, and I don't think many people saw that scoreline going to happen going into the playoffs. Chesterfield were the form side. Walsall have been awful since the middle of January, but recently, when it's mattered the most during the season, it could have mattered a little bit more then. They have obviously had a major bottle, but in the playoffs, they've not continued that bottle. They've done very well to beat Chesterfield, who I thought just did not perform. They didn't show any of that type of form that they've recently shown in the league in the playoffs whatsoever. A lot of players who were a big reason as to why they made it in on the final day just did not perform across both matches. Obviously, there was some decent chances for both sides. I think Pepper had a couple of decent opportunities in the first half. Brilliant all-round play, but when it came to that final finish, just really lacked that clinical edge, and both teams' keepers, to be fair, were making pretty decent saves. The first goal actually came 81 minutes into the game. Some nice play from Albert Adoma down the right-hand side, obviously coming on off of the bench. Great cross into the box, and Charlie Lakin just wanting it a bit more than, is it Dylan Duffy, who by that point was playing in right back. Paul Cook had basically gone hell for leather and thrown all his attackers onto the pitch, and I don't think Lakin's necessarily lived up to the expectation of being that Isaac Hutchinson replacement, but he's obviously scored a very important goal in this one, and for a small man to be so committed in winning that header, it was a great crossing as well from Albert Adoma. Obviously, Armando Dobra would pull a goal back, the first and only goal that Chesterfield would score in the playoffs. Long throw comes into the box. Will Grigg lays it off nicely, and Armando Dobra is just free to finish into the back of the net. If anybody was going to score for Chesterfield, he's the man that you would have probably put your money on. I think if they are to be successful next season, Chesterfield, I think they'll definitely get into the top 7, but he needs to remain injury-free. And not even a minute later, Albert Adoma with some brilliant play down the right-hand side absolutely skins Kyle McFadzean. I sometimes get that the wrong way around and call him Fazdeen, but it's McFadzean. Absolutely skins him. Great cross into the box. Ash Palmer just completely switches off. He's caught ball watching, and Amanche heads into the back of the net. And then obviously there's a big pitch invasion at that point, which I didn't really understand, and then they also pitch invaded at full time. You've achieved nothing. You go into Wembley. Why are you pitch invading? And that's not just a Walsall thing, that's just a general EFL thing. I think the only time you should be pitch invading is when you get promoted. Even pitch invading for avoiding relegation on the final day of the season, even if it's a miracle, I still don't really understand that personally. But brilliant for Walsall. They were comfortably the better side across both legs. Chesterfield really lacking that clinical edge in this game, and again, it's another playoff tie that we've seen this year where the dominant side in terms of possession, the heavily based possession style, has been undone and they've lost. And again, we'll get on to the other League 2 playoff semi-final, but you look at all the other leagues as well, teams who don't play walk ball have done a lot better, and it goes to show that something that I've been mentioning a lot throughout this season, that possession means nothing. It's one of the most pointless stats in football because you tend to not really do anything with it. You're 2-0 down in a playoff semi-final, you need to go for it, but instead you're just passing it side to side. And I thought the likes of John Fleck, I've not really rated him for what I've seen of him in a Chesterfield shirt this season. The few times I have seen him, he's just a lot of sideways and backwards passes. Jensen Metcalf, a player that I rate very highly, didn't have a great game, but there was a lot of Chesterfield players who just did not perform. I would have liked seeing Sparks and Duffy both starting this one. I think they're both very good at crossing, but there is lots to look forward to as a Chesterfield fan going into next season, and congratulations to Walsall on reaching Wembley. And the other playoff semi-final saw Wimbledon progress through to Wembley after beating Notts County 1-0 on the day, which meant they won obviously 2-0 on aggregate. Josh Nerfield scoring the only goal of the game. Joe Lewis sends a ball long. Lewis Macari with some really poor defending. I've seen a few people question that Nerfield's offside. It's actually Miles Hippolyte who's offside. Nerfield runs past a defender or two before the ball's even played. So a great finish from Nerfield, lobs it over Alex Bass, and at that point, 2-0, with Notts County not having McGoldrick. I mean, not having Jetta was probably a bit of a bonus, but especially not having David McGoldrick in there, losing Dan Crowley in January. I never saw Notts County getting back into this game because they massively lack creativity. Jody Jones at the moment, or for the majority of this season, has looked a shadow of the player that he was last campaign, understandably because of his injury, but then you look to where the real attacking quality in that side, where you've got Will Jarvis, who sat on the bench for the first 54 minutes, which I didn't really understand, because he's probably 1v1 one of their best players, maybe not including Jody Jones. I probably would say he is their best player. Both teams had some other decent chances as well. Marcus Brown had a couple of one-on-one opportunities which he just could not quite convert. Mike Stevens had a free header about 7 or 8 yards out which produced a great save from Alex Bass, but Notts County's only real opportunities came from like centre-half shooting from about 40 yards out. They were absolutely awful, and again, a possession-based team who just couldn't create anything really clear-cut. 14 shots, only the one on target. That is absolutely embarrassing. And Wimbledon, 27% possession, but were comfortably the better side, created much better opportunities and thoroughly deserved to be going to Wembley. They were comfortably the better side across both legs. I thought Johnny Jackson managed the game well. He brought Riley Harbottle off at half-time as well after he picked up that booking in the first half. Very, very smart from Jackson. And you look at Notts County, they're bringing on the likes of Junior Marias, who's not kicked a ball for Notts County all season. He's been on loan at Dagenham and Redbridge. Scott Robertson obviously recently returning from injury, but I just look at the quality in the Wimbledon side and I just don't see it. Connor Grant, Charlie Whittaker, Matty Palmer, even George Abbott, he did not show up whatsoever throughout the playoffs, and I really just look at that Notts County side and I think you're massively missing any quality. And I know McGoldrick's injured, Jatta's suspended, but selling Dan Crowley in January, like what I said, would come back to cost Notts County and bite them on the backside, and it definitely has done. If they kept Dan Crowley, regardless of whether he had an attitude problem, as a number 10 for Notts County alongside McGoldrick, he was probably one of the best players in the division. His movement to MK Dons obviously hasn't worked out, and Notts County are also massively missing him. If they would have kept him, there's no doubt in my mind they would have been automatically promoted. It was such a bad move. Maybe not even necessarily just selling Crowley, but not replacing him properly. You relied massively on Charlie Whittaker, who scored a couple of goals at times, but he is nowhere near the standard that Dan Crowley was, and I feel like a lot recently, over the last couple of seasons that Notts County have done, where they've sold a player and then they've just replaced them with somebody slightly less quality, and you can only get away with doing that for so long because them players are not really developing and turning into better players, and it's just coming back to bite them. I look at Matty Platt, for example. He obviously turned down the new contract with Bradford City in the summer because he felt like that Notts County was a better chance for him to get promoted. Bradford City are a League 1 club. Notts County will be a League 2 club again next season. Look at Stuart Maynard turning around and shushing the Bradford City fans after Dave McGoldrick scored an absolute worldie, nothing to do with the manager. Jody Jones celebrating like he'd scored the goal, turning around, and he were giving it to the family stand as well. So you could argue there's a little bit of karma that's come back to bite Notts County here, but Wimbledon, like I say, definitely the better side across both legs. Joe Lewis, absolutely outstanding at the back as well, and I think now is probably the best time to have a little bit of a preview for the upcoming final. Now, obviously, both sides were coming into the playoffs actually on pretty poor runs of form, and both sides were questioning whether their manager is the right man to take them forward. Just quickly going back to Notts County, they absolutely have to sack Stuart Maynard. I don't even need to explain myself, they've got to sack him. But these two teams are coming off the back of pretty poor form, but did actually both win on the final day. They've won both of their playoff semi-final legs as well. And earlier on in the season at Walsall, it finished in a 1-1 draw, and at Wimbledon, it finished in a 1-0 away win for Walsall. I'm going to assume Nathan Lowe scored the only goal of the game in that one. He did. I did not know that, but any time before Christmas that Walsall scored probably had something to do with Nathan Lowe. And then you go back to last season, Wimbledon actually gave Walsall a bit of a hiding towards the back end of the campaign, but they're two clearly very, very tight games. Both teams coming in on very similar form. It's going to be very, very hard to predict, but if I was a betting man, I think I would just edge AFC Wimbledon. I think, yes, Walsall played well in the playoffs, but I've just got a feeling that Wimbledon will get over the line and they'll go back into League One. If Walsall do get promoted, it'd be interesting to know if they would have rather run away and won the title or get promoted in that manner, winning at Wembley. But I think going into next season, there is going to need to be a bit of a change for Walsall just because of how poor they have been in the second half of this campaign. Whereas Wimbledon, I think if they do get promoted, they can build on what they've got. People like Alistair Smith has been released by Lincoln, so I'm sure they'll be looking to re-sign him this summer as well. But I would probably back Wimbledon for a 1-0 win at Wembley. I think it'll be very tight. Neither side's really a possession-based team as well, so that could be very interesting. But I feel like it's going to be a set piece or a mistake that's going to decide this one. I'm backing Wimbledon for a 1-0 win. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 100 likes, as I mentioned at the start of today's video? That would massively appreciated. And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. If you're a supporter of any four of them clubs, let me know your thoughts on your season as well, and what is your score prediction for the League 2 playoff final. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.